Good day to everyone. This is Josh Myrle, and we're going to go over my Tech at Work webpage. The first page is the home page, and it kind of gives us a brief description of the purpose of the page. Um, it. First of all, this is going to be kind of an impromptu thing. I didn't come up with a script because I want my reactions to my own pages to be a little bit more natural. This is for the course for ELRC 4507, and I chose to focus my topic on um, people who have to work from home now that aren't maybe used to it, students, professionals. They're using technologies maybe in a way that they haven't before, or they're relying on technologies much more than they were previous to the pandemic and basically being forced into their homes. So what I wanted to do was um, look at common technologies that are being used right now, like Zoom and other web conferencing things, either software related or hardware related. So it's also going to offer some tidbits on actual hardware products like web cameras. The next page is my bio, which is just a quick overview of myself with my professional headshot. Um, we'll get into resources. And the first thing that I created was a blog, actually. And I got real heavy on trying to explore Google Sites and what all Google Sites can do. And the first thing that I was actually kind of excited about, and this might be a little silly, was the fact that I can embed links into images because I know a lot of people, especially on mobile devices, like to be able to just kind of click an image and navigate to a website. So my blog page was the first thing I did for that. Of course, it wasn't populated with any information at the time, but um, so now you're looking at my blog, which is Tech at Work. The longer title for it is Tech at Work Today. And just to go off on a side tangent about the blog, I did enjoy writing some of this blog stuff. It, the subject matter was wiki and copyright and what was the first? Um, oh yeah, just basically an overview of my experiences. Um, I really enjoyed writing some of these things because I don't really think about copyright too much. I mean, of course, it's always a kind of a thought in the back of my head, but I don't really think about it. And then to have an opportunity to read about that in depth and even wiki pages, which I personally never really lent a lot of credence to Wikipedia or any type of wiki pages because I just don't trust the sources that much. But the idea of using a wiki page, say in a microcosm where you and coworkers or something are able to add resources to it and create like, a blog of sorts of information that, comes from people that that you work with, that you can trust, that seems like an interesting concept. And then I've got my links, and those are kind of fun to look up and gain knowledge on useful things for even myself, like Zoom tips and stuff like that. Anyways, back to the web page at hand here. Personal favorites was another fun creation. I was able to look up some stuff that was relevant to me, to my job, and actually come up with um, some stuff that I actually could send out, say, to coworkers or my customers, and say, hey, take a look at some computing tips. Here's some things you can do while you're at home to help kind of speed up your computer. Or this is a big one for me, is a lot of people want to know, hey, what webcam do I need to buy? And I can send them this link and say, check this out before you make a purchase. So, all relevant stuff to what I do now, which is IT at LSU. The Diigo links, especially, I found useful. I actually had a meeting with my team a few weeks ago, and I suggested that we use some sort of curation tool. I sent them links to Diigo. I know for that site you can have a free account with 3 members, up to 3 members for free before you have to start paying for extended membership, and that would actually work out really well for our team. Just so, if we come across how to's or tips and tricks type sites, videos, things like that, we can put them into that page and we'll all have access to it. Because right now it's basically the Wild West of curation where, we either bookmark it ourselves on our own bookmarks, or we try to go back to say an email. Hey, I sent you an email 2 weeks ago about how to fix this. Go check it out. And then, it's not really the most efficient way of doing things. So I have suggested this. So thanks to this class, I've got a little bit more insight on Diigo and how it works. The tech projects. The first one that I wanted to talk about was the PLN PLE. I actually did a PLN PLE for a previous course with Dr. Monroe, and I guess it's one of those things where you kind of know your environment, you know what you use, and how you use it, but if you put it in a graphic, it does give you a real picture and sense of maybe where your strengths and weaknesses are, and maybe where some holes are in your tools or your services, or what communities you use. So I always liked the practice of creating these charts just to give you uh, a visual sense of what your work environment, your learning environment, your network environment actually looks like. We did cover, excuse me, we also did reflections. Reflections, to me, reminded me a little bit of our blog post, in that it's not a necessarily rigid way of writing so much as that it's just you putting out opinion and thoughts on a specific subject, and in these cases it was Twitter, blogs themselves, and some of the curation tools. I did like having like writing some of the reflections, just because it gave me a chance to think, is this really relevant to me as far as professionally what I do now? How could I use this professionally? Go back to tech projects. The mobile app was another fun project. I did enjoy um, looking through the list that Dr. Harriman provided for the different apps out there for us to take a look at. I settled on Poll Everywhere because it ran, it kind of crossed over, classroom and professional environments. We've actually used in the last big meeting we had with the entire ITS group. They actually used Poll Everywhere to take a few polls so that our new CTO could get a sense of how everybody's feeling about ITS, and what can be improved. So I thought that was pretty interesting that I just done this presentation, and then a week later we're using it in a real life scenario. And my daughter also was doing the online courses, and I felt like this could be something that her teacher could have used to communicate with the students in an interactive way. And so I just thought it was a great um, relevant experience to look up apps and to kind of dig into them and justify their use. So the slideshow is was a good experience too. I used I've never really used Google Slides before, but it was pretty straightforward, pretty simple to use, and it automatically plays on your website, and so it was good practice to build a slideshow, clean it up, make it look nice, and then embed it into the website and just sort of get an idea of how to do all that so that the information is relevant and the presentation is nice. The website evaluation, um, I won't say it was my favorite thing to do, but it was definitely learning experience. The 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 idea that I have to relay information to other people and make suggestions and suggest, say, websites to go to for troubleshooting. This gave me a little bit of um, of a little bit of logic to go by whenever you're looking at a website and you're considering whether it's something that is safe to share, or something that's relevant, or something that is trustworthy. And so I did benefit, I think, from having an evaluation tool that I may not actually fill this out every time I look at a site that I'm going to recommend, but I can definitely reflect back on it and think, okay, does it have X, Y, Z? Is it relevant? Is it trustworthy? So for that, it was a good experience. I don't know if I do not put anything in videos, but Digital Story was our last major project, and I did really like creating. I do not have iMovies. I don't have a MacBook anymore, or a Mac, or any sort of Mac thing to create. So I did use um, the Open Editor program, and that program's pretty good. It can be a little unstable. It's a little bit of a learning curve with that, but it was fun. I got to collaborate again with my cousin Adam. He writes music, and so I asked him to put a soundtrack together for me. And then I enjoyed looking at some of the different free videos and short clips and things that were out there under Creative Commons licenses. And as an artist myself, I just I like to create, and this kind of gave me a little bit of an outlet to be creative and just come up with my own little dialogue and story and all that. So from a creative standpoint, it was right up my alley, and definitely enjoyed it. And it also was more challenging than I thought to create a video that was cohesive, and a dialogue that would go with it, and have a story that had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and consider all my transitions and all that sort of stuff. So it took a little bit longer than I expected, and there was just so much to consider, and I think it was great though. I feel like I gained quite a bit just from creating, a 5-minute video. I can't imagine a 2-hour movie, and what it would take to do something like that. Um, and then, of course, there's nothing posted here yet under evaluations, but soon I'll go ahead and post this long screencast into to this part of the web page. So all in all, I think that you know the actual the pragmatic part of this class was definitely the most beneficial. Where you don't just talk about websites and how they should look. You actually you take what we were given, which is a basic outline of how the site should look so that it's consistent, and then you go from there and you create content. And so, you know, Dr. Harriman took some of the pressure off by giving us a storyboard saying this is how the site is going to, in a nutshell, going to operate, and then you fill in the content from there. And so I had taken a course before where we had to create a Google site, and now reflecting back on that, I had no experience and no real logic behind how I created the site. So I had to create my own logic and create, um, the flow of the website. And this practice actually gave me a lot more um, tools when it comes to, how should a website be laid out? What are the important parts and pieces that'll help guide anybody that, needs information and keep it from being kind of confusing or circular. Um, the layout's clean, it looks good, and the information is there. And so, I got all that from a lot of the things that we did in this course. So I definitely can give credence to that. Um, Overall, I could definitely say I've really enjoyed the um, the class and what we've learned, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks.